Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for the first episode of video game sales. Previously on my channel, I talked about video game sales in a segment called Video Game News with Paul Gale Network. However, from now on, I'm going to have a designated video that comes out, and it's going to be just about the latest sales coming out of Japan, North America, Europe, or wherever we happen to get the data from on that given day. Today, for this episode, we're going to take a look at the Famitsu sales charts from Japan. This represents week 52 and week 1 of 2022. Really, it occupies that December 20th through January 2nd time frame, so only 2 days go into 2022. The charts have it listed as week 1, but in reality, let's realize that 12 of these 14 days are still 2021. And only 2 are from 2022. That being said, these are the top 10 best-selling games in Japan for that 2-week time frame. In number 1 spot, we've got Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl coming in at a whopping 231,275 copies sold. That is up 98% from the previous week. These numbers also, I will tell you in case you are new to this segment in any capacity, represent only physical sales and only in Japan. In the number 2 spot is Mario Party Superstars with 206,145 copies sold. That's up 240%. At 3 is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with 104,540 copies sold, up 272%. In 4th place is Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain, moving 87,970 copies, up 160%. In 5th place is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with 83,491 copies sold. That's up 216%. In 6th place is Momotaro Dentetsu with 78,350 copies sold, up 392% from the previous week. In 7th is Animal Crossing New Horizons, which moved 78,311 copies. It was up 187%. In 8th place is Minecraft on Nintendo Switch with 74,644 copies sold, up 152%. At 9th is Ring Fit Adventure with 46,111 copies sold, bringing it up 232% over the previous week. And at 10th place is Pokemon Sword and Shield with 35,441 copies sold, up 149% over its previous week. Now, there is a reason why these percentages are up so much over their previous week, and that's because, to be fair, this is 2 weeks worth of sales compared to 1 week worth of sales. Usually we get these every week. Famitsu had a break in Japan last week, which is why we didn't get December 20th through December 26th, and then the 27th through January 2nd. If we did, the breakdown would have been split a little bit differently, and you would have had a much different percentage in growth, incline, or in decline from just one previous week. However, even if you split these more or less in half and said, 115,000 approximately per week for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, 103,000 for Mario Party, 52,000 for Mario Kart 8, 43,000 for Big Brain Academy, 41,500 for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, etc. That's still some pretty big numbers. I mean, the fact that Pokemon Sword and Shield charted so high, ranking 10th place with 35,441 copies sold for the 2 weeks. Like I said, if you split that in two, that's still about 17,000 and change sold per week for those last 2 weeks, all while Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are out and still hot and new on the market, selling near 250,000 in that 2-week frame. So that's very impressive. Sometimes we get a PlayStation game on these charts. This, by the way, is not a Nintendo-only chart. This represents all games. So if PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, if one of those systems had a title that was in the top 10, it would be here. The reason why you're seeing only Nintendo is because the top 10 best-selling games were all on Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch has had a phenomenal 2021. It broke some records that year, with 33 months of consecutive #1 spots in terms of sales sold in the United States on that end. And in Japan, for the first time since 1989, a 22-year record it took to break finally happened when Nintendo Switch charted not just the top 10, but the top 30, every single one of the games in the top 30, all on Nintendo Switch. That wasn't done prior since the NES days, the Famicom days in Japan. And that happened actually 4 times in 2021. We don't have the top 30 charts yet, but we will in time, and we'll see if it happened another time, making it 5 or potentially 6. But that is the software side of things. We're going to go into the hardware side. On the hardware end, once again, this represents 2 weeks worth of data, and Nintendo Switch came in at #1 with 393,980 copies sold. This compares to the previous week's 176,000. Once again, though, that 176 is 1 week's worth. This 393 is 2 weeks worth. I anticipated that the final 2 weeks of the year in Japan would give us 400,000. I was very close with 393,980. If you take that 393 and divide it by 2, you are looking at less than 200,000 per week. That is still higher than that 176. We don't know what the exact split was, Could it be something like 196 and 197? Maybe. Or was one of them 200 and one of them 193? That's also a possibility. We don't know the exact breakdown. But regardless, pretty sizable growth. This 393, however, is less than the 590 for last year's respective 2-week frame. However, it's still pretty powerful of a system for a console that is about to turn 5 years old. To still be delivering these types of numbers is fantastic. You can see that the year-to-date for 2021 was 5.7 million, and the year-to-date last year, clearing to the end of 2020, was 6.2 million. The total sales in Japan for the Nintendo Switch at this point are at 23,115,427. This is phenomenal. The PlayStation 5 came in second place with 72,064 units sold. That is a lot higher for that 2-week frame than the previous week's 8,664. It's also better than what Sony gave to Japan last year in that respective time frame, which was 23,820 copies. Its year-to-date is 1,014,862. Last year's year-to-date was 265,782. Keep in mind, last year the PlayStation 5 was only out for 6 weeks in the end of the year, so this number should be higher, right? And that brings PlayStation 5's lifetime to date total to 1,270,012 units sold in Japan. Now, I will say this was a PlayStation 5 success for the week and a personal success for Paul Gale Network, because I had exclusive news indicating that the sales were going to be tenfold for PlayStation 5 in the 4-week frame of December 13th through January 9th. And sure enough, if you add up 8,600 plus 72,000, you're at about 80,000. And our numbers for those few weeks prior ranged from 1 to 9,000. So 10 times 9,000 is 90,000. We have 1 week to go before PlayStation 5's 4-week run from my numbers are up. And we'll see how close do we get to 90,000. Maybe Sony even ships out more. Hopefully, right? Xbox Series, this includes S and X, moved 2,159 copies last week in Japan, slightly down from the 2,889. And if you think about it, that's 2,159 for 2 weeks, so it did actually drop fairly significantly from that previous 1 week's worth of data. It's up from last year's stock of 339 for the week. It brings the year-to-date to 97,757. Last year's to date, kind of like PlayStation, out for just several weeks in the end of the year. it did beat quite considerably their 31,558, and it brings their total to 129,181. The Nintendo 3DS, still on its last legs, but people still buying them. 670 units sold. PlayStation 4 at 68 units sold. You're looking at the lifetime of these, and 3DS, 24,587,768. The Nintendo Switch has been out for a lot shorter of an amount of time, and it's only about 1.472 million away. So 1,472,000 units away. This is something that's going to happen before summer, and that's pretty impressive because the Nintendo 3DS was a successful system worldwide. It didn't do DS numbers, but it was a success story, selling close to 80 million, and in Japan it did quite well with nearly 25. Nintendo Switch is going to break 25 next year in Japan. PlayStation 4 at 9,394,968 is definitely that continuous sign that Sony is slowly going down in Japan from PlayStation to PlayStation 2, but then 3, 4, 5, even PSP to PS Vita to nothing existing on the portable side now. The future doesn't look necessarily bright for PS5 in Japan, but it could potentially be a system that still sells, 6.5, 7 million in Japan, provided Sony ships out enough. Sony has made it pretty clear that they care much more for the West, and that includes United States, Canada, Europe, South America, and if you go on the other side, Australia, than they do Japan. Xbox, meanwhile, if they wanted to, just for fun, have that 1 week where they surpassed PlayStation 5 in Sony's home country, it would have had to be that week of December 6th through the 12th, realistically, because at that week they were almost neck and neck, but Sony shipped more, and now in these 4-week span that we're at in this current time frame, in which we have that 1 week left to go through the 9th of January, I don't think Xbox is going to pass PS5. But, that's just more for something that is kind of a, hey, Xbox beat PlayStation in Japan for the first time ever. Kind of a funny thing like that. But that's about it. Usually, like I said, I cover video game sales as a part of my video game news day videos, but right now I am trying something different, giving you a designated breakdown, comprehensive look at sales in its own video. I will also combine this with my video game news video and put it at the end, but I think moving forward, it's probably going to be just this delivery of video game sales on its own, but we'll see. Now, there is one other thing I wanted to add to today's video game sales talk video, and that is regarding Nintendo Switch sales in 2022 and where I see them ending up at. Granted, we don't know the final numbers sold in 2021, but we know that at some point in late December, the 100 millionth Nintendo Switch was sold. So assuming that we're at about 102 million as of January 1st, my estimate is that we will see another 20 million sell throughout the calendar year of 2022, and that as of December 31st, 2022, we'll be at approximately 122 million Nintendo Switches out there. My further breakdown is something like this: 8.5 million to United States, 5.5 million to Europe, 4.5 million to Japan, and 1.5 million to other territories. There are things that we don't know, though, beyond just how many exactly were sold. Things like chip shortages and just how much of an impact will that have on the video game industry, at this point, Nintendo specifically. Will they be able to manufacture enough? Will there be any price drops on the Nintendo Switch Lite, Nintendo Switch, or Nintendo Switch OLED? Likely not on the last, but potentially on the first two, right? Will there be a player's choice line of permanently reduced software that gets implemented into Nintendo's strategy at some point this year. Thus, especially complemented with a price drop of Nintendo Switch base models, people could look at it and say, well, now I could get a system and a couple of games for a lot less than just what it was before, correct? Will there be any key software that gets released this year that we don't know about yet that is going to be a massive hardware driver? You know, people will buy a Nintendo Switch to play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, but not in as significant of a drove as a new title that is of similar size that isn't a sequel. Because it's safe to say that if people really wanted Breath of the Wild 2, they would have purchased a Nintendo Switch in the beginning to play Breath of the Wild and then just bought Breath of the Wild 2, contributing just to software, not for hardware. Unless if there are different SKUs of the console with gold on it and special art to make people double dip and buy a second, third, fourth, whatever have you Nintendo Switch. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about purely new people buying a Nintendo Switch just to play Breath of the Wild 2. It will happen though. There will be enough positive word of mouth that people that have been kind of sleeping on Nintendo Switch for 5.5 years now say, okay, it's unavoidable. Everyone's talking about Breath of the Wild 2. I need to get that first one. I'm going to pick up the system and both and have a good time. That'll happen, but smaller percentage. So I'm talking about, would there be a big enough game that comes out this year that's going to drive hardware beyond what we think it's going to drive? Something that's going to be a big spike, What's strong enough to do that? New Pokemon games, people are going to buy hardware for it, but a lot of the people that are going to buy a Nintendo Switch have one to play the existing Pokemon games, unless if Arceus is of a high enough quality that it brings in a dormant Pokemon fan base that doesn't already have the Nintendo Switch and hasn't already been purchasing the likes of Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, Sword and Shield, Diamond and Pearl remakes, you know what I mean? Snap, new Pokemon Snap for that matter, Pokemon Tournament DX, Pokken Tournament DX. So my point is, not necessarily will just a new Pokemon game or just a new Zelda game guarantee brand new massive sales that really do something shocking and just another outlier in Nintendo Switch's trajectory. What could it be though? Could a new Star Fox drive it? It could be a boost, but not to some significant long-term boost, kind of like Animal Crossing was, but Animal Crossing is a very rare game. Could an F-Zero game? F-Zero would sell well. I'm confident that it would bring in new people to buy the system, but not of that level. I think the best chance at something shocking coming to bring in more people is honestly Mario Kart 9. Yes, a lot of people already have Mario Kart 8, but you've also had people that have fallen off or out of interest in Mario Kart 8. So the new people that are coming into the system, if they're seeing that a game, even one that they don't have that looks exciting, that's new to them because they didn't have a Wii U in Mario Kart 8, even if they would normally be willing to buy it because it would be a new experience, if they see the rest of the community that they follow, their friends, start talking less and less about it and it's not as vibrant of a topic, that may sway them into, I don't need to buy a Nintendo Switch right now because that ecosystem of Mario Kart isn't as live and as thriving as it once was. But a Mario Kart 9 will sell in such a tremendous quantity to the existing massive 110 million at that point installed base of Nintendo Switch that such a significant percentage of people will be playing it that it's going to have this tremendous ripple effect into bringing a lot of new people in at like, okay, now's the time I'm going to buy a Nintendo Switch because there's all this other software that I've been missing out on, but Mario Kart 9 is the hot thing. I need to hop on top of it. If Nintendo could release Mario Kart 9 at the right time, it will propel hardware almost at Animal Crossing levels, I feel. I'm wondering though, should Nintendo wait on Mario Kart 9 and release it simultaneously as a cross-gen title that ends the Nintendo Switch life, or one of those last big games that come out on that console while simultaneously launching for the Nintendo Switch 2. So you know, deliver highly to that 140 or so million installed base of Nintendo Switch owners, while also showing this is how much better it looks, it runs, etc. on Nintendo Switch 2. You don't have to buy the new system, but there are perks to it. No one of the old system is alienated, but that's kind of speculation talk. When does Nintendo release it? When is the right time? Kind of up in the air. Fun to speculate. Anyways, that's going to do it today for Video Game Sales with Paul Gale Network. Thank you for watching with me. This is something that I'm very familiar with. I've been covering sales for many years, and I love it. So, although it's familiar for me to talk about, to write about, this is officially the first entry in a new designated segment just for sales. So, if you liked it, consider subscribing, liking, commenting, talking back and forth, as I would appreciate to hear more and hear of what you think, and where do you think Nintendo Switch is going to land in 2022, and for that matter, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. I know that today was pretty Nintendo heavy, but honestly, when you look at the Japanese sales charts, courtesy of Famitsu, which, by the way, thank you to Chris1964 and the InstallBaseForum.com forums for these charts the way that they are presented. When you look at these charts, it's hard to not talk about Nintendo because it's all you see in software for the majority of the time. And hardware, it's just so high on Nintendo's side that that's what kind of cannibalizes the conversation. But things will change. We'll get more PlayStations in there, more Xboxes in there. We'll get some top 30s when we go into NPD data or digital data coming out of Europe or what have you. You're going to have more conversation that represents more evenly, more equally, more sides of the spectrum. So if you're not the biggest Nintendo fan, don't worry. There's more content to come in terms of sales for you. If you do like Nintendo, hey, be happy that the platform that you like is succeeding, but also know that there will be conversations of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series and their successes or failures for all three at any time, right? We like to call it as it is, and yeah, have a good time. Okay, thanks again for watching. This is PGN signing out. I hope you all have a good one. Thanks for joining me today for this special first official video game sales video on my channel. Take it easy. Bye.